Sometimes in our little city, we find big things. I never would have imagined that selling yarn online would be such a big thing. But Laura Zander, co-founder of Jimmy Beans Wool, had a vision. Laura and her husband Doug created a business that landed on the Inc. 5000 list 4 times. Laura is one of Ernst & Young's entrepreneurial winning women and was even invited to the White House for a forum addressing the American Jobs Act. There is no doubt that Laura Zander is smart. But she is more than smart. Laura is creative, and Laura is so passionate. When you talk to her, you can feel the passion oozing from her body. Yep, that's right, oozing.
We started Jimmy Beans in 2002 in Truckee, California. Small 500 square foot shop. I was the only employee for a couple of years. Opened a second location in Reno in 2004. And then really started to hit a growth spurt in 2007. And since then, we've grown, well, from $1 million in sales to about $7 million.
So currently you're doing $7 million in sales.
Yeah, we did last year.
In yarn.
Yarn and fabric.
Does that surprise people?
Yeah, it surprises me.
What do you think has fueled the growth? I mean, to go from 1 million to 7 million is most people's dream come true, right? So what do you think that really is about? I mean, this is yarn we're talking about. This is not, some technology.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, interestingly enough, so my husband and I were both .com software engineers in San Francisco before we moved up here. And the funny part is part of our growth has been fueled by technology. My husband, don't tell him I said this, but he's really smart and he's a really good engineer. And
Don't ever let him know.
No, I won't. And he won't watch this. I won't let him. But he's done all kinds of things on our website that's given us a technical advantage over other people in our space. Mm-hmm. We have a feature called Wool Watcher, where every 2 hours we have a product that is at a deep discount, and the product changes every 2 hours or when it sells out, whichever comes first. Mm-hmm. And we're it's kind of it was a precursor to Deal of the Day. Mm-hmm. This is Deal every 2 hours. We have a yarn calculator that knitting shops throughout the country use, where you can say, I want to make a woman's sweater size medium, and I would like to use a yarn that's about this thick, and it'll tell you how many yards you need.
Seriously?
Yeah, so he's done all kinds of interesting stuff like that. And our site, we have 1,500 YouTube videos. So we've made a lot of technical and kind of social media combined advances that other people just haven't done yet.
So it's actually fashionable at this point to knit. I mean, when I think about knitting, I think about, my grandmother sitting in a rocking chair and knitting, but that really isn't the way it is anymore.
No, and that's how I started knitting, is I walked into a knitting shop and there was a mannequin sitting there with a BCBG sleeveless turtleneck sweater, and my jaw dropped. I was just like, I had no idea, and it was out of a Vogue magazine. Mm-hmm. So it was literally a picture out of a Vogue magazine, and then there was a pattern so that you could make that yourself. And actually the most popular magazine in our industry is called Vogue Knitting, and it's from, Vogue. And so it's super fashionable. I mean, everything that you see in J. Crew, everything that you see in Anthropology, anything, somebody like me or a lot of people want to wear, you can make it yourself. And we have patterns that follow those trends.
Well, it's funny you say that, because the first time I walked in here and I looked at the mannequins, that was my first question is, are these things in here for sale? Oh my gosh, I've never seen such great stuff. And they feel so good. I mean, they feel like silk, And so I'm like, how do I buy this stuff? And you're like, no, you have to learn how to make it. Laura firmly believes that knitting is not a hobby. It's a lifestyle. She's created an atmosphere and hired employees that share the passion of yarn and fabric, of knitting and sewing, employees that use and love the products.
We have 45 employees, and almost all of them know how to knit, and almost all of them would be happy to stop doing stuff in the warehouse and come out here and spend some time with you and teach you how to knit and get you hooked. When we tell you the first lesson's free, I mean, it's like a drug.
The thing I love most about working here, and I'm one of the purchasers, is that I get to spend tons of money every day on yarn. It's so cool. Obviously, it's not all personal yarn for me, but it's a really neat thing to place these really huge orders for yarn and to know that there are people out there that want to buy everything that I'm purchasing. It's so amazing to know that there's that much demand for it.
The open environment, the creativity that's inspired by both the regular staff and the upper management is really sincere. I love crochet for its simplicity and its ease of use for both the left-handed person and the right-handed person. The best thing about working at Jimmy Beans, I would have to say, is the culture.
I love it here. It's the best job I've ever had. Really the people, the environment. It's just really relaxed and easygoing, and no matter what, it's just yarn, so it's okay. Everything's okay.
When I think of knitting, I think of my grandma sitting in a rocking chair. Well, as you can see, knitting is not just for grandmas, and it's not just for women.
So we reached out to the U.S. ski team and asked if we could sponsor them and be the official yarn supplier to the U.S. ski team. And
How fun.
they said yes. They're like, you have no idea how many of our kids or adults or whatever, how many of our athletes knit and crochet.
One of our top guys here is the best quilter around, an award-winning quilter. I'm really excited to have him on our team, and yes, they do sew, and they sew well.
This is one of my quilts. This is called Mobius, and this was done at a quilt class that I took for a couple of days, and it was very labor-intensive to put all those pieces together. This is a quilt I did from our Sew Red book that Laura's put out now, and the quilt behind you is an applique quilt that is an artistic quilt that I made.
I got into knitting because my sister moved out of the house and she left some knitting looms at my house, and I was bored one day and I just went for it. Started knitting a hat, and that's it. And sewing I got into because I wanted to make an outfit for Burning Man.
One of Laura's passions is bringing awareness to heart disease. Heart disease is the #1 killer of women, killing more women each year than all the cancers combined. Using her creativity, Laura launched a book series to help support the cause.
We came up with a series of books to kind of accompany that. And the first one was called Knit Red. It's got 30 celebrity knitting designers and their designs done all in red, and then their stories of how heart disease has affected them. And then we did a second one called Sew Red. It's got Ty Pennington, Amy Butler, Kay Fassett, all these celebrity sewists and designers, and it's the same kind of idea, all these sewing projects. And we have Crochet Red, which is crocheting projects by celebrity crocheters. And then we're going to have Cook Red coming out, I believe, in August of 2014, and that is notable chefs and heart-healthy recipes.
An amazing woman and an amazing company. You can find more information on their website, or you can search over 1,500 YouTube videos. They also have a beautiful retail store right here in Reno, Nevada, where you can shop or take classes.